So now we know the problem, energy balance. What's happening is we're taking in too much energy and not burning enough out. So what we do at Tiena Health is we talk about trouble, and there's trouble in River City, and that starts with T and that rhymes with P, and that stands for plaque. And T is for training, R is for roundness, O is for oil, U is unacceptable sugar, B is blood pressure elevations, L are lousy habits that get those problems, and E is what happened if we don't control those 6 variables, and that is exploding plaque. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about energy balance. Now Albert Einstein really had it straight. He taught us that E equals mc squared. Well, what does that have to do with our body? Well, E is energy, M is mass, and C is a constant. So E equals m times a constant. Energy equals mass. So if I have mass on my body that I don't like, say my stomach's too big, or my hips are too big, or my backside's too big, well, I know that the way to get rid of that mass on my body is to turn it into energy, and that's what energy balance is all about. And as I said, energy balance is trouble, T-R-O-U-B-L-E. Let's talk about the first part of trouble, and that is T, training. How do you increase the amount of energy you burn every day? Well, at Tiena Health, we have a relatively easy way to do that, and that is not to add another thing to an already busy day, but let's take your day and add more energy expenditure to it. And for that, we use the pedometer. Now, the way a pedometer works is that every time you move up and down, it counts your steps. So it is a rough approximation of the energy that you burn. How many steps does the average American take every day? About 3,000 steps. Now, tall men will tend to take fewer to cover the same amount of ground. Very short men or women will tend to take more steps to cover the same amount of ground. So you can figure out how many steps you take in a mile by just putting your pedometer on and walking on a course or on a treadmill for a specified distance, 1 mile, and look at the number. That will tell you how many steps you get in a mile. Now, why do we care how many steps we get in a mile? Well, 1 mile of walking burns 100 calories of energy. 1 pound of fat on our body, which appears as 4 sticks of butter, somewhere that we would rather not have it, is 3,500 calories. So, if I were to walk 35 miles, I would be 4 sticks of butter smaller, in that my body would have turned the potential energy, which is what we carry around on us in the form of fat, into kinetic energy and burnt it off. So it literally, the fat cell would be pulling that energy out, dumping it in the blood, it'd be floating through and going to those muscles and to the organs, which are like coal burning ovens. They burn that energy, they pull it out of the blood and burn it, and as a result, we'll see those fat cells get smaller and those 4 sticks of butter disappear. So, how many steps have I gotten today? Well, 3,350 steps so far today. So, 3,350 steps for me, I've already figured out how far it takes me to walk a mile, and it's about 1,700 steps. So, that has burned 200 calories off of my body. So, at the end of the day, the way it works is that your body says, how much energy have I burnt? And we can get an idea of what it's going to find by what's on the pedometer. On the flip side of that, we have R, which is roundness. And roundness is the amount of energy you take in. That's the food that you eat. And we get to know how much we eat, how much energy is in our food by counting calories. We'll actually learn about how many calories we burn with different exercises when we play the couch potatoes, and we'll learn about other ways to burn energy in our body by doing strengthening exercises when we play the Toledo toners. Now, when it comes to taking things in, the R, we learn about that when we play the Portly Trailblazers. Plus, the way that you eat is very important. If you eat too much carbohydrate and become a carbohydrate addict, we'll learn about that when we play the Colorado Carbos. If you take in too much fat, that's very rich, 9 calories per gram, and we're going to learn about that when we play the Hamburger Helpers. Okay, so let's come back and get back on track with our trouble in River City. So why don't I take you through some examples? But before we do that, I need you to look at your numbers and figure out what is your basal metabolic rate, BMR. A basal metabolic rate is the number of calories that you burn when you lay there completely still and don't move for 24 hours. That's the number of calories it takes to keep your brain and your skin and your heart and your lungs and your stomach and your legs and all those things alive in 24 hours. And usually for a woman, let's say that's 5 feet 6, weighs 130 pounds, it's around 1,300 calories. These are your free calories, if you will. For a male that's say 5'8", 160, 170 pounds, it's going to be more like 1,500 calories. So those are your free calories. Then you have your calories you get when you use your pedometer. And again, the average American walks about 3,000 steps, but we know if you're going to be successful in the game of health, you've got to push that up to 6,000 steps to maintain your weight, or 10,000 steps if you want to start to see your weight drop down. When you look around the world, by the way, you find that people in Europe usually walk 12,500 steps or so, and if you go to Africa or a third world country, often they walk 18,000 steps a day. So 6,000 steps really isn't exorbitant. And who's going to walk 35 miles to lose 1 pound of fat? Well, we're not going to do that. We're going to find a smarter way to attack this. So let's go through the energy balance equation. So for our example, let's take a 5'6", 145-pound woman who has a basal metabolic rate of about 1,600 calories. Now in the first day of our example, she's going to walk 3,000 steps, and we're going to say for the average woman that 2,000 steps burns 100 calories. So she will burn 150 calories today from her walking, and she'll track that with her pedometer. Now she's not going to go to the gym, she's not going to do any additional exercising, no Toledo toner kind of activity, so her total calories that she's going to burn in a day is 1,750. So that's the training part of the equation. Let's go to the roundness part, and what we find is she eats a fair number of calories. Let's start with breakfast. She's going to get up in the morning and she's going to eat, say a muffin and drink some orange juice, or she's going to eat a Pop-Tart or two with some orange juice, or maybe she has a bagel and smears some jam on it and eats a whole bagel with a big glass of orange juice. That's about 400 calories. That's the amount of energy she took in, and in a half hour those calories will be floating through the blood mainly as glucose. Now let's keep going, and let's say in the mid-morning, because she ate so much carbohydrate or sugar, her sugar went way up and it drops down 3 hours later, and so she's feeling kind of lethargic and tired. Maybe even she had a Coke or Dr. Pepper for breakfast. She's starting to feel real tired and lethargic, and so she goes to the candy machine where she buys herself a candy bar. Now I mean a small candy bar, not one of the supersized jobs, and that has about 250 calories in it. So a couple hours later, she goes to lunch, and she goes through our favorite fast food restaurant and gets a #1 with cheese and a regular Coke. That has about 980 calories in it. So she goes back to work and things are going relatively well, but about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, she's starting to nod off a little bit. So she thinks, I've got to do something. Let me go down and get just a small bag of chips and another 12-ounce Coke. And she eats the chips and drinks the Coke. Not an uncommon thing for people to do. About 6:30, she gets done with work and she's driving home thinking, I'm not in the mood to cook tonight. I think I'll just swing by and pick up a personal pan pizza. So she goes by and gets herself a pizza, maybe say a Supreme, and that has about 880 calories in it. So she gets home, she plops down on the couch, she takes out her cruise control and she starts doing the channel surfing thing. And about 9:30, starts to get hungry again. She goes in and gets 1 cup of Rocky Road. Now a pint is 2 cups, so it's a half of a pint of Rocky Road ice cream, and she scarfs it down. 400 more calories. So how many calories did she take in today? She took in 3,560 calories. So follow me. She has 1,750 out, 3,560 in. So the difference is about 1,800 calories. Now remember, 1 stick of butter on your body is roughly equivalent to 900 calories. So today, our example, this young lady, is basically putting about 2 sticks of butter on her body. So what I'm saying is tomorrow morning, if she gets up, she goes in and takes off her clothes and looks at herself in the full view mirror, she will find 2 more sticks of butter hanging on her body. Well, that's not a very good alternative, and that's why people in the United States often gain 5 pounds a year between the ages of 25 and 40. Way too much weight. So let's take a different example. Let's take a second day, and let's say that instead of walking 3,000 steps, our participant in the game of health says, I'm going to get 6,000 steps, and she gets out there and gets 3,000 more, which really would only take maybe 20 minutes or so of extra walking. So instead of burning 150 calories, she burns 300 calories today. Add that to her 1,600 basal metabolic rate. She's now going to burn 1,900 calories. Well, what does she eat today? She takes up, and in breakfast she gets some instant oatmeal with some fresh fruit on it with a glass of skim milk. She takes in a total of 260 calories. Now she's got a nice balance between proteins and carbohydrates, so what happens is she doesn't need a mid-morning snack. At lunch, instead of going to the fast food restaurant where she gets a #1 with cheese, she goes to Subway and she gets herself a turkey 6-inch with lots of vegetables on it, a little oil and vinegar. She gets herself a Diet Coke, iced tea, or water to drink. Plus, she goes ahead and gets a bag of the original baked chips, and that ends up being a total of about 410 calories. So, middle of the afternoon, she gets hungry, which I think the 4 p.m. snack is the most important snack during the day because it keeps you from getting too hungry in the evening. So she brings a small apple and 5 almonds and eats that. Almonds because it gives her the fat that makes her feel full. The apple because it gives her a little pickup with healthy calories of fructose, which is a type of sugar which makes her feel better. Now, she gets done about 6:30. She's a little tired. She heads home. She thinks, I'm not going to cook. So she goes by another restaurant, say maybe Grandy's, and she picks up a chicken breast. She takes the skin off. She gets some green beans, a piece of bread, and maybe a Diet Coke or her tea or water. So her total intake for dinner is about 750 calories. She goes home, she plops down, she starts to channel surf, gets hungry a couple hours later, and when she does, she eats some sorbet, and the sorbet gives her 260 calories. So her total calories for the day are 1,800. Now, she burnt 1,900, she took in 1,800. What's the difference? 100 calories. So the next morning she gets up, she whips off her clothes and goes and stands in front of a mirror, and what we see is that she basically the next morning has several pieces of butter that have disappeared from her body. So she's actually gotten somewhat smaller because the fat cell is putting its energy back in the bloodstream. Let's go to example number 3. So today she's very excited. She gets up and she goes 10,000 steps. She's in the game, and that is 500 calories. She starts to eat, and again, she's very wise about her food choices. So she gets up for breakfast and she eats a 30-30-40 bar. We have some wonderful ones we use here at Tiana Health. There are a number of them out there. It has about 200 calories in it. It's got a good macronutrient balance. That's carbohydrate, fat, and protein. So she makes it all the way through to lunch before she eats again. She has the same lunch she did yesterday, 410 calories. She eats the same mid-afternoon snack, 120 calories for an apple and some almonds. Then on the way home tonight, she swings by the grocery store and picks up a frozen dinner which has 370 calories in it. Now she sits on the couch, she relaxes for a while, she's doing the cruise control on the TV, and she goes in and gets 3.5 cups of popcorn, which has only 100 calories. She uses the light or air pop popcorn, not that which has butter and fat and other things in it. So you can see her total caloric intake today is 1,200 calories. Holy cow! So let's look at the energy balance today. As she stands in front of that full-length mirror, what is she going to see? Well, she took in 1,200 calories. She burnt 1,600 plus 500, 2,100 calories. So the difference is 900 calories. Well, she's going to have more than 4 sticks of butter gone from her body the next morning with this regime. So you can see that the key to energy balance is the amount of activity you get. We use the pedometer for that. It also is the way and amount that you eat in terms of total calorie, but the key to that is to eat the right foods, not refined sugars, not things that are going to drive your blood sugar up and down, those that have a high glycemic index, which you'll learn about in the Colorado Carbos, and not things that are high in saturated or trans fats, which we talk about when we do the hamburger helpers. So, as a result, you can understand now that when we look at the trouble in River City, it starts with P and rhymes with P, she's getting out of trouble because her T has now gone up, her R has now come down, so inside her bloodstream, the O, oil, which is that energy, is going to be sucked out by those tissues of brain, the muscles, the bones that are eating those calories every day with the BMR and the activity. Her U, unacceptable sugar, is going to be down because it's the energy with sugar that's pulled out. The brain only uses sugar. as an energy source, so it's going to be eating that out of the blood. Her blood pressure drops down because she's smarter. She's learned about what we talk about in the Hammerhead Shakers, salt, and we see her blood pressure come down, plus she's using the second healer, which is water, to flush her body of all those toxins and metabolic byproducts, those exhaust wastes, if you will. And how did she do that? Because she cleaned up her lousy habits when she learned in the game about the things that she can do that really aren't any harder. It's just a matter of learning new habits. What does this mean? This means that she has added years to her life and life to her years by empowering herself to take better care. And she is not going to have E, which is exploding plaque. So in this section, I hope you come to understand that E equals mc squared, energy equals mass, and if you have mass on your body that you'd like to get rid of, we just have to figure out a way to get more kinetic, and as a result, you'll have those sticks of butter start to disappear from your body. But you know, the hardest thing for people during this is to figure out how to eat properly, how to eat the right amount. And that's what we learned when we played the Portly Trailblazers. But to get started today, I'd like to teach you the hand signals of health. Now, everybody hold your hand up in the air in front of you just like this. Look at your fist. That is the size of your stomach. Now, big guys, they have big fists, bigger stomachs. Young ladies, smaller people, they have a smaller hand and a smaller stomach. So the amount that they burn every day and the amount they can eat varies according to their size. One size does not fit all. So open your hand up in front of you. Let's do this kinesthetically. If you go along with me and you move with me, you'll learn more. So everybody take your finger and go up and down over your palm. No, not like this. I see you over there. Let's go big over your palm. That's your free food. Those are your vegetables. And vegetables don't have any significant number of calories. A whole cup of broccoli has 25 calories. So eat away. You're not going to gain weight from vegetables. And you want to always eat those first, because when you eat your vegetables, they go into your stomach and they form a net that catches the fat, that catches the sugar, and pulls it through you and out the backside. In fact, there have been studies that show that you lose 100 calories of fat and sugar when you eat your vegetables first and you eat lots of vegetables. Say 25 plus grams of fiber a day in your foods. Okay. So take your finger and make a circle around the palm of your hand, and then as thick as a deck of cards. That's the amount of meat you want to eat. If you're going to eat meat, you don't have to eat meat, but if you're going to, it's about 3 to 4 ounces, depending on how large you are. Now, I'm not saying as tall as you can make your fingers, but as thick as a deck of cards. And that's the amount of protein that your body, with a normal level of activity, will usually need. Lastly, take your fist and put it on your fingers. That's the amount of starch, bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, and corn that is acceptable to eat at each meal. So let's review again. The size of your stomach. Eat your free food first. That's your vegetables. But be careful about the sauces, because if you get a bunch of butter or béarnaise or hollandaise or Thousand Island sauce, it's going to really have a lot of energy in it. Next, you look at the palm of your hand, and as thick as a deck of cards. That's the amount of protein that you want to take in with each meal. And lastly, the bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, and corn is the size of your fist over your fingers, not your fingers, but your fingers, that you need to take in each meal. Now, at the end of this, what we've done is we've taken in what you need to live in terms of food. You do that 3 times a day, plus you get 2 snacks, like the mid-afternoon snack and the bedtime snack in the examples we just went through. But what if you're still hungry? What if you'd like to eat some more food? Very simple. For every tablespoon of bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, corn, or the meat portion, you just add 500 more steps. So whip out your pedometer, look at where you're at, and add 500 steps per tablespoon to your steps that day. Don't have to worry about them appearing on your body the next morning. And if you eat your free food, you don't have to take any extra steps at all. Okay, let's say that you follow those. You've got the hand signals down, but that dessert looks awfully good over there. Shall we have the cookies, cakes, candies, pies, maybe the ice cream? Everybody hold your finger up just like this. This is a sliver. There are 2,000 steps in a sliver of cookies, cakes, candies, pies, or ice cream. So do you want to eat it? Go for it. But add 2,000 steps to your goal today. This is a slice. Guess how many steps? You got it, 4,000. And this is a piece. So have a piece of pie, but make sure your goal, if it started out at 10,000, you get 16,000 steps today. Now the average small candy bar that we talked about earlier is 250 calories. How many steps do you have to walk to keep that from appearing on your body tomorrow morning? That's right, 5,000 steps, if you're the average woman, is going to burn that off of your body. So make sure that you keep this energy balance straight. And those are the hand signals of health. If you'll follow those, you will beat the portly trailblazers and you will quit having extra energy appear on your hips or in your stomach where it can be particularly dangerous. All right, so that's it for our energy balance section. Let's go into the last section of the discussion today, and that is, let me take you on a quick trip around the bases in the game of health.